Have you ever felt as though you were in the presence of angels? Have you ever been in some sort of circumstance and you thought, I really feel either my guardian angel around me or other angels around me? If so, this video is for you today. I'm going to be talking in a moment about an experience I had in a little church in New Mexico. And before I do that, I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory to this, which is that when I was growing up, I was raised Catholic and I always believed in angels. I did. It just, some of the things about religion I had some trouble with, but never had any trouble about the angels. I always believed that they were around, that we're getting protection from them somehow. And I don't know why that was so easy for me to believe. It's possible that when I was a young child, I had some sort of experience that stayed with me. And maybe that's why I believed that. But anyway, so that relates to the story I'm going to tell you today. And by the way, welcome back to Simply Zen Spirit. And my name's Allison, and welcome in today. June of 2015, a friend and myself went to Santa Fe, New Mexico to actually see Amma, who is called the Hugging Saint from India. And I'll talk about that experience in another video. I actually had 3 times that I actually received a hug from Amma because before the pandemic hit, she used to come every summer and usually go to Santa Fe, New Mexico as one of her stops. So we had gotten a hug from Amma the first day we were there, and we were staying a couple of nights. And so the next day we wanted to go up to this Chimayo, which I had told my friend about. She had never been there. And I had already had kind of an amazing experience there, which I'll talk about probably later, but this day we were already tremendously blissed out and really in a happy place. And we go up there, and she was also raised Catholic, and although neither of us were really practicing Catholics, I'd say at this point in time, but we happened to catch it on a day they were having mass at this old church, which you can see in this tapestry right there. That's actually an image. It's a little tapestry of the church at Chimayo. So we happened to go in, and there was literally, it's a tiny little church, probably not room for more than 60, 70 people maybe. And we went in, and there was actually 2 spaces left on a little bench at the back of the church. And so we sat down, and it was already probably about halfway or more through Mass. Both of us were very familiar with Mass and all of that, so none of it seemed very strange. And we're sitting in there, and at some point, about maybe 10 minutes after I got there, I started feeling strange. And I mean, in a way that I was overcome with emotion, but there wasn't any particular reason. The priest wasn't, giving a sermon or anything like that. It was just, I don't know, I got overwhelmed. And the first sign I had that something was happening was tears started running down my face. Now, I wasn't like sobbing or anything. I couldn't stop the tears from welling up in my eyes, and then they were just running down my face. And my friend, who was very spiritually oriented as well, of course, she looked over at me and went, "Whoa, are you okay?" And I went, "I think so." I think so, yeah. And at that point, I can't really, there's no words that I can use to fully describe what was happening, but I felt all the angels in that church, like all at once. I didn't see them with my eyes, but I'm a very kinesthetic type of person. When I talk in later videos about having experiences with like paranormal stuff, I'm a person that gets touched by things or feels things like in a physical sense, but not with my eyes. And so what started happening, which I did not expect at all, is that I felt the presence of dozens of angels in that church. And it's like they were, like floating up at the ceiling, I kind of felt like, but they were also on the ground with us, like next to everyone that was in the church. I could feel this presence. And it was beautiful. I mean, it was the most amazing And that's why the tears were coming even before I realized what was happening. Because when you're in the presence of something that angelic, heavenly, I don't know what kind of word you'd really want to use. I mean, I don't have words enough for it. It's overwhelming to your soul, and your soul just starts weeping out of joy. I mean, it was not a sad kind of thing. It was an amazingly beautiful kind of thing. And I really couldn't even put it into words in the moment. Well, my friend, who was very intuitive, she kind of figured something was going on, and she whispered to me, she says, I'm going to go wait outside. You stay in here as long as you need to. And at that point in time, we were already at communion, and things were wrapping up. And I still felt this incredible presence. And what's weird is I could tell that people were looking at me strangely, that were standing, because there were some people just standing in the back of the church. And I think they were wondering if I was okay or not. And I couldn't really deal with that. I couldn't. I wasn't embarrassed at all, because again, when you're blissed out, you don't feel embarrassment. There is no feeling of that in your system at all. So I've never, the thing I explained last week in that video, that had happened the year before. And so was I about the same level of happy? It was a different kind of happy. This was more like I was having a completely out of body almost experience. Like I was communing with angels, but I didn't understand really how, and I couldn't. My brain wouldn't work. I mean, at that point in time, my brain just wasn't functional. I just was having an experience, and I really couldn't. It wasn't something that I felt like laughing or I didn't want to say anything. I just was communing with these angels. Well, the mass let out, and I continued to sit there. And as everybody left the church, I still had tears streaming down my face. Couldn't stop them. And I went up and went into one of the front pews at the church, and just to sit until whatever happened was, going to happen with this. And I just still felt them, even though all these people had left the church. The church was still filled with angels. Like I could it was unbelievable. And I felt like I was cradled, supported. I really don't even have the right words for it, but I was completely enveloped by this energy, by the presence of these angels. And I just was almost paralyzed by it in a good way. I mean, not in a bad way. And I noticed that people went to the back. There's this very famous part of this church where there's a hole with dirt in it that's considered to be sacred dirt. I will discuss that in another video. And people were kind of going back through the main part or in front of the altar back to this little room and coming back. And again, everyone I could tell was kind of looking at me. Nobody said anything to me, which is really interesting. And I think I don't know if they could tell that I was really having a incredible experience or not, but no one really asked me, but they all kind of looked at me strangely. And so after a while, I don't remember exactly how long, maybe another 10, 15 minutes, the feeling started to fade, and I could feel that the angels were dispersing, like they were not all clustered there anymore. And so as that happened, I started to kind of regroup my emotions and myself. And I still sat there for a few minutes. And then finally I did go outside, and my friend was waiting by this little fountain in front of the church. And she just looked at my face and she said, wow, you got to tell me about this. And I said, yeah, I don't know if I have words for this. But of course I did tell her. And of course she totally believed it, because she was, on a very similar type of spiritual path as I was. So I really, to this day, have no explanation for that. I have never felt angels to that degree or number before in one place. I have felt being in the presence of angels before, but usually it's maybe a couple, 2 or 3 at a time. It's not an entire church full. And I don't know what that was about. I don't know if I was the only person that sensed it. I didn't see anybody else with tears running down their face, so I'm assuming no one else sensed it the way I sensed it. But I have no idea if anyone else felt that day and maybe just didn't say anything to their, family or friends. I have no idea. I know it was an incredibly magical experience. I don't know that I'll ever have anything like that exactly again. I have no explanation for it rationally. I didn't maybe say this in last week's video, but I'm a very rational person. I'm a very I have a master's degree in anthropology. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology. And I'm a person that believes in facts and evidence and things you can observe. But all my life, I've had what I consider spiritual experiences that there is no explanation. There is no evidence. There is no proof. And so I can't give you that other than to tell you this was my experience. Do I know for sure it was angels? Obviously not, since I didn't see them with my eyes, but it gave every feeling of that, every evidence of that to my senses. I know it was a beneficial thing. It was definitely a positive force. I didn't feel anything negative about it. I didn't feel threatened in any way. I didn't feel anything that could be in any way harmful to me or anyone else. So I don't I don't have any explanation other than it would have been angels. So that is my angel story. Like I said, I've had other experiences where I have felt angels around me just in the moment, but it's usually just one or two or three at most. It's not a whole room full. Anyway, if any of you out there have had any experience with angels and actually seeing them or sensing them as I did, feeling them touch you as I did, please leave a comment below. I'd really love to hear your story. And until next time, be kind to yourself and to others. I think it's very, very important to always remember that. And please drop a like if you feel so inclined, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next time. Take care.